Welcome to Greater New Antioch Baptist Church, a Bible-teaching, Bible-believing ministry where the dynamic preacher and teacher, Dr. E.O. Jackson Sr., is pastor. We are located at 2900 Avenue G. Ensley, Birmingham, Alabama. You can call us at 205-781-7973 or find us on the web at www.gnabc.org. We are Greater New Antioch Baptist Church. Come go with us into the sanctuary and hear today's life-changing word.
Stand feet, nation. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Pastor E.O. Jackson, Greater New Antioch Baptist Church, 2900 Avenue G, Birmingham, Alabama, 35218, coming to you again with a word from the G Block. As always, it's our particular delight to be able to bring this word with you. Keep in mind what we've been saying. The building is closed, but the church is still open. And because the church is still open, we're delighted to be able to share with you this word from the G Block. So we're grateful to all of our members, all of our friends who joined in with us today. Hope this word will find you a time and place where you can be uplifted from something out of the word of the Lord. So thank you, members. The blessings of the Lord be on you, all of our friends. Thank God for all of you who are tuning in. But there is a word that I want to share with us today on this second Sunday in August, as we're rapidly making our way through the year. It's found in the book of Acts, Acts chapter number 23, and verse number 11. Acts chapter 23, verse number 11. I'm reading from the New American Standard translation of the Bible. But on the night immediately following, the Lord stood at his side and said, "Take courage, for as you have solemnly witnessed to my cause at Jerusalem, so must you witness at Rome also." So must you witness at Rome also. Lord said to him, "Take courage." I want to tag this simply: God will take care of you. My brothers and sisters, as each pastor stands on Sunday and seeks to remind all of us as we're dealing with this pandemic during this horrific time, each pastor seeks to remind the membership that he's called to serve that better days are ahead. And we seek to remind us that God will not only look out for us, but God will take care of us. So here in this text today, may I again say these are some tough times in which we are living in, tough times in which we are dealing with. A lot of people are losing hope, and some are even losing their faith. But we are prayerful that you will not allow yourselves to get to the place that you give up. There is hope and there is help in the Word of God. And the Apostle Paul here finds himself at one of the most horrific times in his life. He is dealing with the aftermath of him having proclaimed the word of the Lord. He is before the Sanhedrin Council, and he is seeking to defend himself before the Pharisees and the Sadducees. This was a terrible time, just like we're in. This is a terrible time in Paul's life. But brothers and sisters, I've often said, when things are well with it, go ahead and prepare yourself for tough days. But sometimes tough days may lie ahead, but you got to have faith. The great Adrian Rogers once said in a sermon that I was listening to, he said that a faith that flaws before the finish was flawed from the first. Let me clear that up. A faith that fizzles before the finish is flawed from the first. In other words, if your faith will not keep you through the situations that you might find yourself in, that faith was flawed from the very, very beginning. And so God, through Paul's situation, I think, speaks some words to us. Just three simple things he says to us that I think will help us as we go through this particular time, this pandemic, this tough time, this rough time, when people are not able to actually physically attend worship in most cases, but you can get this word. And so let me give you a word. During the tough times in your life, you need to know God will take care of you. Here's what God will do. look at the text. But on the night immediately following, the Lord stood at his side. So the first thing I think I need to tell you is that you need to understand, number one, that the Lord stood. He stood. Isn't that amazing? That at the worst possible time in Paul's life, when he was alone, he was despondent. He felt that he had no one to turn to. He's in prison, and by way of being in prison, Paul, in all likelihood, was in solitary confinement. But the Lord does something. The Lord stands up for Paul. Isn't that something? And because the Lord stands up, Paul is able to see him. And that's what I need to drive home to you, that while we're going through this horrific time, this time of pandemic, the Lord will allow you in some way to see him. So that's what Paul says on the night immediately following the most difficult time. All of these things, the Sadducees and the Sadducees, there's a great uproar. And Paul finds himself in a horrific situation. But in a horrific situation, the Lord stood up. Oh my goodness. So that's the first thing you need to know and understand. The Lord will stand. And then because the Lord stood up, Paul was able to see him. I need to tell you, don't let doubt blind you. Keep your eyes open. If you keep your eyes open, you will be able to see the Lord. So jot that down. The Lord wants to teach us that when you're going through a horrific time, when you're going through a bad season in your life, when you're going through a pandemic called by COVID-19, here's what God is saying to us. You need to know the Lord stood. He stood. But not only that, stay right there in the text. The Lord does something else. When he stood, here's the second thing that's right there in the text. He said the Lord stood at his side and, two little words, said. And the Lord stood at his side and said. There it is. That's the second thing. Not only do we see in this text that the Lord stood, but the Lord spoke. The Lord spoke. The Lord spoke. Wow. I think that's a word of encouragement right there, that when you're at a time in your life, you're despondent, you're all alone, you need to know the Lord will speak to you. Sometimes you might feel that you are in a situation and there is no help. The story is told of a man who bought an expensive horse, and he wanted to give this horse to the king, but he discovered that the horse seemed to be agitated all of the time. The horse seemed to never be able to settle himself down. Whenever they would take the horse out in an attempt to break him, he would rage and he would be uncontrollable. And along comes a gentleman who says, I think I know what the problem is with this horse. They said to him, well, you've got to understand this horse is for the king, so you've got to make sure that we're able to tame this horse, to settle this horse down. The gentleman said, I know what his problem is. The problem is he sees his own shadow. And seeing his shadow, he thinks that there's another horse there, so he's fighting, he's bucking, because he thinks that there's another horse right there beside him. So here's what they decided to do. They decided him to turn him toward the sun. And when he turned him toward the sun, he was no longer able to see his shadow. He calmed down. Somebody who's watching this message, you need to turn toward the sun. And when you turn toward the sun, listen to what he'll do. He'll speak to you. He's already stood. Now you need him to say something. He will speak. Now you've got to learn how to hear what God is saying. I think I said in a word in our newsletter that sometimes God says more in his silence than he says when he's speaking. Look in John chapter 11. Mary and Martha sends for the Lord and bids him to come because their brother was near death. But the Lord delayed his coming. But his delay was not accidental. What he was actually doing is he was teaching Mary and Martha some vital components of faith. Those vital components of faith, I don't have time to go through them. He was trying to teach them that the answer may not come always immediately. He was trying to teach them that the Lord may not come when you want him to come, but whenever he gets there, he's able to fix the situation. So I don't know. I hope all of our members, you're hearing me. Listen to me carefully. The Lord will stand. He stood. But not only do we see that the Lord stood, he spoke. He spoke. The Lord will say something to you in the middle of your situation. Now, here's the last thing I want to say to you in this little brief meditational message for this Sunday. Paul is in a horrific situation. He does not see his way out. He's in prison. He has appeared before the Sadducees and the Pharisees. They are in the midst of a great uproar. He's despondent. He's alone. He's all by himself. He's in a cell, isolated. But here's what he finds out in verse 11. But on the night, that very night, the Lord stood. The Lord allowed Paul to know that he was not alone. He allowed Paul to know that he was not by himself. And then after he stood, he spoke. He spoke. But let me grab something again in this text and say it. I want to grab that again. I want to use that. Now he stood, he spoke, and said. Let's get that again. He stood, he spoke, he said. What did he say to Paul? He said. What did he say to Paul? Listen to what he says to him. Take courage. Take courage. Some of this is of this text, these words in the Bible has it, be of good courage. You need to know and understand when you find yourself all by yourself, the Lord will say to you, take courage. That's all through the Bible. You can see the Lord saying to people, take courage. He said to the paralytic, take courage. The woman with the issue of blood, take courage. When the disciples were caught out in the storm, he said to them, take courage. What a name, take courage. And now he says to Paul, take courage. And now he's saying to you, wherever you live, you might live on the north side, the east side, the west side, the south side, whatever part of Birmingham, maybe you're listening out of town. I have some family members who listen out of town. Wherever you are, he's saying to you, take courage. That's a good word, y'all. Take courage, because he wants you to know I'll take care of you. And listen, here's where I'll wrap up. He wants you to take courage because he wants you to know he'll take care of you. And if you know that God will take care of you, here's what I encourage you to do. There ought to come a time that you ought to be willing to thank God for how he is taking care of you. I remember a story I told one Sunday preaching about a lady. She went to the grocery store. She didn't have any money. And she decided, well, the grocer said, here, you can have this. And she became so appreciative to him, that grocer. She wrote him a letter to thank him for how kind he had been to her. He said to her, well, you shouldn't thank me. What you ought to do, I'm just a grocer. You ought to thank the farmer. She decided to do just that. She said, well, I will. I'm going to write a letter. She wrote a letter to the farmer to thank him and so forth. And the farmer said, well, I didn't do anything. You ought to thank the baker who made the bread. The baker got a letter from her thanking the baker. Said, no, you need to thank the farmer. She wrote the farmer again, said to the farmer, I tried to thank the grocer. I tried to thank the farmer and the baker. And here's what the farmer told her. Said, ma'am, here's what you need to do. You need to thank God, because if it had not been for God, I would not have been able to grow what was necessary to make that bread. I'll tell you what, brothers and sisters, when you get through thanking everybody else, push that to the side and thank God. God will take care of you. That's a word for you today. As you go throughout the rest of this day, I want you to hold on to that, meditate on that, and believe that God, the pandemic is raging, y'all. It's real. Keep your mask on and all of that kind of stuff. But whatever you do, don't lose your faith in God, because even through this too shall pass. God will take care of of us. Well, y'all, this has been Pastor E.O. Jackson with my little meditative thought for today. I want to encourage you to continue to join us here at Greater New Antioch Baptist Church, GNABC.org. And if this little meditative thought has helped you today, you can reach out to us at our website. We'll be glad to respond. And on our website, you will be able to see how to communicate with our ministry and any way we can be of assistance to you. If you want to interact, you might even want to be a blessing to the ministry. You can learn how to do it right there, GNABC.org. Again, this has been Pastor E.O. Jackson with a word from the G Block. We look forward to seeing you next time with the word of the Lord. Till I talk to you, be safe out there. Take care of yourself. We'll talk to you real soon.
Thank you for tuning in to Greater New Antioch Baptist Church, where Dr. E.O. Jackson Sr. is pastor. Join us again for our Sunday worship service broadcast at 12 o'clock noon and on Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. for our midweek Bible study. We are located at 2900 Avenue G, Ensley, Birmingham, Alabama 35218. You can call us at 205-781-7973 or find us on the web at www.gnabc.org. We are Greater New Antioch Baptist Church, a Bible teaching, Bible believing ministry, sharing a life-changing word.